Okay, decimals. You're going to need paper, pencil, paper, and colors today. Once you have that ready, you can go ahead. Okay, you don't need to write this down, but let's just think about this because we're going to add something to what we talked about which fractions can easily be turned into decimals. Now, technically, any fraction can be turned into a decimal, but that's a different process, and that's not something you learn in grade 4. So we are talking about directly turning a fraction into a decimal. We can do that with some. Can we do it with, I'm on the wrong thing here. Can we do it with 2/3? No, we cannot, because that number 3 just does not work for us. It needs to be out of 10, right? Because we are working with a base 10 system. Can we do 7/8? No. Bottom number is not 10. We cannot use it. So last time we decided that only if the denominator is a 10, if there are 10 sections, then we can turn that into a decimal. Okay? Today we're going to be talking about another number that works because it is part of the base 10 system. Okay? All right, this number is 100. So when we're thinking about our place value system, if we were to do our regular ones, we would have ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, and so on. So we have hundreds in there. We have tens and hundreds. Well, when we're doing our place value system, but we're looking at numbers that come after the decimal, then we have tenths, and this next one is hundredths. You could probably guess what the next one's going to be, even though we won't be doing that one. Tens, tenths, hundreds, hundredths. What comes after? Thousands. So yes, for decimals, this one here would actually be thousandths. So it kind of goes in the opposite direction of what we had before. Okay? Now, if we are doing hundreds, we are dividing one item into 100 sections. Okay? So would it be possible to do a fraction out of 98 and write it in there? No, it would not. Not for grade 4 purposes. Okay? Yes, it would be, but only later on you'd probably have to use a calculator for that. Okay, so we can directly turn any number that has a denominator of 100, a fraction, into a decimal. Okay, so we're going to get rid of this for now because we're not thinking about those things. Okay, all right, so here's a little example on the bottom of 100 sections. So this is done in hundredths. And somebody has colored a little picture. They've got a tiger. So using different colors, we can now make up fractions and we can make up decimals about the colors in this picture. So what I'd like you to do is I would like you to count up all the black squares and pause the video until you have that number. Okay, so if you counted them up, you should have had 3, 6, 9, 12, plus one more is 13. So we have 13 100ths. So 13 squares are black out of 100 squares altogether, okay, or 100 sections. How do we turn that into a decimal? Well, we do not have one complete unit of black. That's what we're counting as black. We only have sections of the blacks. We don't have one whole complete unit as blacks. We put 0, then we put a decimal, and now we write 1, 3. And the way we say this is 0.13. We do not say 0.13. So when you're reading decimals, you say every number separately. Okay, 0.13. Say that to yourself. Okay, great. Now, let's look at another color. So I would like you to count all of the green. Pause the video until you have that number ready. Okay, so green spaces. We've got right across the bottom is green. And I don't know if you notice the way this grid is set up, but there are 10 going down and 10 going across. We've got 10 rows and 10 columns. So when you're looking at one whole row, it's always 10. And if you know your times tables, 10 times 10 is 100. Doesn't that work out perfectly? Okay, so we've got one whole row of green. So that means we have got 10. 10 out of 100 are green. So 10 100ths. How would we write that as a decimal? 0.10. So say it with me, 0.10. Okay, and both these things represent the amount of green in the picture. Okay, so far you didn't have to write any of that down. If you did, that's okay. All right, on your paper, write down page 234, 235, and the date. Pause until you're ready. All right, number 1. So let's take a look at this instruction. It says number 1, write a fraction and a decimal for the green part. Now we do not need to count up all these squares. Right away we know we've got 10 on the side, 10 on the bottom, 10 times 10. This is hundredths. Okay, we've got 100 sections. So there's no need to count that all up. We've got A right here. So we're going to put A, and they want a fraction and a decimal. So first of all, let's do the fraction. Now, let's talk about how to count this smartly. You are not going to count like this. So let me give you a bad example of counting. Here we go. Bad example. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. We don't do that. That takes forever. What do we know? We know this is 10 and this is 10. And guess what? You know how to count by tens. So what have we got? We have got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and here we're missing 1, so 10 take away 1 is 9. So we have got 60 plus 9, 69. Okay, out of how many altogether? 100. How would we write that as a decimal? 0.69. Okay. All right, let's take a look at B. You should be writing this down now. Okay. B, let's take a look at B. Well, we don't even have 10. These ones, counting smartly, would be counting by ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 100ths. Now, I want you to write this down. Space, decimal, space, space. And I want you to pause the video and see if you can figure out how to write 6 100ths. Okay, if you put a 0 here, you are correct because we do not have an entire thing of green. We only have parts. So 0 whole items. Now, if you put the 6 here, you are wrong. Because what does this mean? This is tenths, correct? This one is hundredths. So if I write the 6 here, this means this. It means 6/10 if it's in the tenths place value. So that is not correct. So how do we write this one? And boys and girls, really, this is pretty much one of the trickiest things that you're going to have to figure out for grade 4 decimals. For this one, you have to write 0.06. That means 6 100ths. Okay, we have to put the 0 in there because we have to show that that place value is empty, and the hundredths have to go right here. Okay, this one was easier because, you know, there were 2 spaces and we fit in 2 numbers, no big deal. Okay, so this is the trickiest thing pretty much that you have to remember. All right, number 2, A. Number 2, again, write a fraction and a decimal for the yellow part. I'm not going to do any of those with you. If you can't figure out how to do it, you need to go back and look at question 1 again. But again, do not count like this. I want you counting by tens, and then when there's some left over, then you count by ones. Okay? So you are going to do fraction and a decimal for each of those. Okay? So when you're finished doing that, you can go to the next page. Number 3. Let's read the instruction. Write each fraction as a decimal. So they're giving it to us as a fraction, but now we have to write it as a decimal. So what I would like you to do for A is I'd like you to pause the video and then write that, and then I'll show you what the answer is. Okay, 0, decimal, 8, 9. Remember, we don't say 89. Okay, B, I want you to pause the video and try that one. Okay, again, 0. Now here's the tricky bit. There's just one number there. It's a 9. Does it go here? Does it go here? Where does it go? So remember, this first one is tenths. Does this say tenths? No, it doesn't. So we need to put a 0 there. There are 0 tenths, but there are hundredths, 9 hundredths. Okay, C. Pause the video until you have it figured out. All right, again, 0. Now we have 30 to go in the hundredths, so that's easy. We have 2 numbers and we've got 2 spaces. And you say, Mrs. Ratzlaff, why do I have to write that 0? Why can't I just do this? Because this means, oh, I lost my connection again. Hang on one sec. I think my pen is running out of battery. Okay, let's see if it's working. This means 3 tenths. This means 3 100ths. Okay, so make sure that you include all the numbers that they give you. Okay, all right. Okay, and D, 12 hundredths. Pause the video until you have that one written. Okay, should be 0, decimal 1, 2. All right, number 4. Number 4. This is the opposite. Write each decimal as a fraction. So now you're going to do the reverse. Okay, so you're going to do A, B, C, and D. I'm not going to help you with that one. I will check it when you post your answers. And we are going to cross that one out just because I feel like it. And so when you are done for A, B, C, and D, you can go on to the next page. Okay, our last one that we are going to do today is number 6. Look at the statements about the 100 chart below. Decide whether each statement is true or false. If the statement is false, rewrite it to make it true. Okay, so we have to correct it if it's wrong. Okay, we're going to put an A here. Okay, this time we're looking at a 100 chart. We're not looking at colors this time. We're looking at the numbers. So let's see what it says. On a 100 chart, 0.10 of the numbers have a 0 in them. So they're looking for which numbers have 0. This number has a 0, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Okay, we have got 10 numbers that have a 0 in them. Is that the same as this? Well, what does this mean? This means this means 10 out of 100. So is that true? 10 out of 100 numbers have a 0 in them? Yes, it is. So we are going to write true. Okay, get rid of that. All right, let's look at B. B, on a 100 chart, 0.17 of the numbers have a 2 in them. Okay, I want you to pause the video and count how many numbers have the number 2 in them. So you're going to count like this. 1. Oh, it's doing it to me again. Okay, pause the video and count them up. All right, we've got this one, this one, this one. Oh, look at this. Okay, so we have 10, but what else do we have? 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Uh-oh. So that was not true. It was more than 17. So we're going to write false. Now, what do the instructions say? If the statement is false, rewrite it to make it true. So I want you to rewrite the proper number. How many numbers have a number 2 in them? It was not 0.17. It was a different number. So count those up. Okay, when you're ready, you can go on to C. Okay, C and D, you are going to do on your own. Read them. And I'm just going to give you a little hint on letter C, because it's a tricky one. On a 100 chart, 0.1 of the numbers have 3 digits. And you say to me, Mrs. Ratzloff, 0.1 means 1/10, but we have 100 numbers here. Yes, it does. It can also mean 10 100ths. Okay, so for this one, you can pretend that this one says 1.10, or sorry, 0.10. Same thing. Okay, they're just different in terms of accuracy. Okay, but for this one, they can mean the same thing. Okay, so do 10 of the 100 numbers have 3 digits. Okay, and then D, I think you can figure that one out for yourself. All right, and I'll look forward to checking those answers.